In Maine, there are a number of different types, 5 specifically, of spousal support. There's general spousal support, interim spousal support, transitional spousal support, reimbursement spousal support, and nominal spousal support. Interim spousal support is usually put in place because there's a huge economic disparity between one spouse and the other during the divorce. Oftentimes it's a power imbalance, it's a financial imbalance. Many times what we see is it's the male in that relationship is the higher earner. Perhaps the wife or the female in this relationship has been a stay-at-home mom and has no ability to continue to provide. She may file for an interim spousal support order in order for her to be able to continue to live the lifestyle she's been accustomed to, that you have to pay for support. That's an interim order. It can be modified later into a permanent order, or it can be modified and completely deleted later, but it would be for the pendency of the divorce in order to allow her to maintain that standard of living. And also could include you having to pay for his or her attorney fees. That would be part of the interim spousal support order as well. General support is normally only ordered if the marriage has been 10 years or greater. There's a presumption that general support should not apply if the marriage is less length of time than 10 years. If it's between 10 and 20 years, the presumption is, if it applies at all, the presumption would then be that general support, which is essentially a form of maintenance for your spouse that you pay monthly, would apply for half the length of the marriage. Beyond 20, you could be looking at lifetime support. But essentially it's to bring both parties or bring the other party where there's this big economic disparity closer to where they were. It's not to make the parties equal, but it's to balance out the financial impact of a divorce, especially for someone who's been a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home dad and hasn't ever entered the workforce, and now they're getting divorced. The court wants to make this a more equitable situation for the party. Transitional support is fairly common. It's a short term of support. It's spousal support. It's to allow that spouse to transition out of the divorce realm to get back on his or her feet. It could be for a period of months or just a few short, maybe it's for 18 months. It's usually for a short period of time to allow them to transition back into the workforce, get employed, start building up their professional history so they can stand on their own 2 feet without your assistance. That's certainly better than a general support award because it's much shorter in time. Again, it's to allow that spouse to transition so they can stand on their own 2 feet without your financial assistance. We don't commonly see one of the other factors here. Reimbursement support, for example. This is one you don't generally see. It's usually for something like economic misconduct. Let's just say you control the money as the wife in the marriage, and the husband just lets you control everything. And you've been having an affair, and it's documented. And you've been taking money out of savings, taking money out of retirement, and you've got this new boyfriend off the side, and you've been going on lavish trips, you've been buying lavish gifts, basically depleting the marital resources. That would be something like economic misconduct. That's where reimbursement support would be appropriate, because that's not something that was contemplated in the course of the marriage. Not the same thing as just burning up your credit cards on, new clothes, new hobbies, whatever it is. When you're doing something that constitutes economic misconduct, that's the appropriate remedy here would be reimbursement support. One thing that we would always, if we're in a divorce situation and the other party is looking for support, it's common for that party, even if support isn't awarded, to ask for nominal support. A nominal support award means it leaves open the possibility if 5 years from now you hit the lottery, they can basically now come back and say, okay, we need to adjust and have support allocated in this case based on your winnings. Or you just got promoted to CEO of Ford, now you're making a huge amount of money, they can come back and have that nominal award adjusted to something more based on where you are economically. So from my perspective, I would try and discourage that as an outcome, but sometimes it's something that's a negotiation point in order to avoid, say, general support or transitional. We talk about nominal, and if things change, we may have to deal with it later. The major factors that influence spousal support really come down to one party's financial power in relation to the other. Okay? If one person is just working at McDonald's and the other person is staying at home and they're barely making ends meet, it's pretty unlikely that spousal support, regardless of the length of marriage, is going to be awarded because there's really no money to award. We're talking about situations where one parent is not in the workforce by choice. They've stayed home with the children by choice, by agreement to allow the other parent to work. That parent basically makes all the money. And now, 15 years later, they're getting divorced. Well, there needs to be an adjustment so the parent who's never been in the workforce isn't basically left stranded and out in the cold. It's to, again, not to make the parties equal, but not to leave this other party, whether it's the wife or the husband who has been working, basically destitute. It's to raise them up and get them back to some accustomed standard of living that they're used to. And when you get married, you agree to go in for the good and in for the bad. And sometimes when you go through a marriage and it doesn't work out, you might just be stuck with spousal support. A common question we get, especially when spousal support is in play, especially if it's general spousal support, right? It's being awarded for a term of years. Can I modify that? The answer is maybe, but you have to show either substantial change in financial circumstances or you have to show that justice is required. Let's talk about the easy one here, substantial change in financial circumstances. If your spouse remarries and moves in with someone, that is grounds right off the bat to get your spousal support modified. You lose your job and you've been out of work and now you're struggling to pay your own bills and now you can't pay spousal support. Those are two great examples and fairly common examples of why spousal support should be modified. You've also got to, of course, factor in, like anything else, the cost of legal fees to go through and modify spousal support. So if spousal support's really low, you have to decide, is it really worth trying to modify if it's already very low, just because my financial circumstances have changed? Because I'm going to have to hire an attorney to prosecute that motion and argue this to the court. So just something to keep in mind. If you're struggling with determining whether or not you should file a motion to modify spousal support, give us a call. Speak with the attorneys at the Maine Divorce Group. We're here, we're on your side, and we're ready to roll when you are.